All right. All right. So, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. This is one of our first live series that we're doing. And in this series, we're calling it the Founders First Time series. So, essentially, we're talking to all the founders that we can find that have experienced their first time of being a founder, and they're good, the bad, the everything. So today I have a very special guest. Very excited to introduce him. We met him in Austin, and he has the best taste for food, especially Italian. And he actually is a founder himself, and we had a lot of great conversation with him while we were in Austin. So today I'd like to introduce Sam from Lux Mark. Sam, how you doing? You like the applause? We got some DJ stuff too if you want. All right. So Sam did not
That's
expect any
awesome.
of that. So Sam, how you doing, man?
What's up, Seth? I'm doing well, man.
Good.
Things here in Austin are going well, and we're growing every single day.
Amazing. Amazing. So just for disclosure, Sam and I are actually working on a project together. So
Yep.
Luxmark and Corridor are working together on a project, and hopefully we're doing well. I guess since you're here.
Yeah, you guys are. Actually, you guys are
Awesome.
actually doing really well.
Thank you. So Sam, tell me about the first time. So you started, I think you said in San Francisco. Is that right?
So I started outside Seattle, in a small town called Port Townsend. My very first company was called Vendor. It was a farmers market delivery company.
Right.
Um, and compared to what I'm doing now, Lux Markets, which is farmers markets for luxury apartment complexes. So
Right.
the
A
first
pivot.
company being Vendor, yeah, in a way, a pivot. First company, Vendor, being direct to consumer, while the secondary company, Lux Markets, is more B2B.
Uh huh.
But I started outside Seattle in this town of Port Townsend, and I initially was just knocking on my neighbors' doors, trying to sell my neighbors' produce and
And
selling it to members at the gym where I was working, essentially teaching senior citizens fitness classes.
so you had no experience whatsoever with tech, right? This was like you just had a business idea and you said, "Look, I think this could kill it," right? That's how you started. That was the beginning of.
Yeah, that was essentially it, and started it just on my bike with like post-it notes up on my walls and a list of phone numbers, a Wix website. Um, Nothing crazy. I'd pay cash to all my neighbors, and I was just doing all the deliveries on my bike. So I delivered like 300 pounds of produce over 3 months.
Wow,
Figured
that's a
out this
lot.
kind of
Wow.
system. It was a lot of. So yeah, I
Yeah.
still got the same bike. If I was at my home office, I could show you photos and things
Yeah.
like that. Um, but I did that, and then found like, okay, here's this process, and people are actually wanting this. Maybe I can turn this into a website. And
Right.
so I took a look at all the different latest, best websites like Airbnb. This was in 2016,
And and
and then just yeah,
and that's how it starts, right? It's always just like you have an idea, you kind of test the idea in the market, and then say, you know what, I think I can build tech around it. And I tell me if I'm wrong, but like I find a lot of people who have a great business idea and realize, hey, tech could be really good here. The issue with that is they have a hard time transitioning from being that business to being a tech company. Does that make sense a little bit?
yeah, yeah. What processes actually need to be automated, or what can they relinquish? Where a lot of, at least with small businesses, like the owners I know, tend to be very hands-on and don't want to relinquish too much control.
Right, and that's actually the like I've worked with a couple of founders now where again, great idea, they have the right concept, they're getting there, but they just kind of are too stuck in their non-tech. Well, they try to transition to tech, but they kind of keep that business model the same, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, tech development is a lot of things. It's got a lot of levels to it, and it's fairly complex. The amount of steps that are in that you got to go through to actually
Yep.
get something developed, and a lot of people who've got ideas may not have a lot of money, right? And
Right.
if they don't know how to code, right, or if they've never heard of Bubble or any kind of no code websites, they don't
Hmm.
really know where to start.
Right.
And that is going to be, and what they're either going to do is try to learn, or they're going to find cheap developers, right, as cheap
Yep.
as you can get, which you can outsource through freelancer.com or something like
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Or Upworks or Fiverr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's ended up what I ended up doing. So once I designed out the frames for Vendor initially and got off the bicycle, I then hired a dude, Ashish, in New Delhi, India, and
Yep.
he built my website for about $3,000.
Yep.
But it was like super MVP. Looking back on it now, ultra buggy, um, and I think I burned probably some serious cash. At the time, it was serious, like
and
a couple
and
grand.
and you're using your bike, right? Like it's not like you're
Yeah.
rolling in an investment fund. And I think in today's world, every startup feels like they have to raise that capital. They have to raise $200,000 or whatever just to be able to survive. And you mentioned no code solutions. I mean, I see this all the time where people come and utilize those tech, but again, like you said, they're non-technical, right? They don't really they have an idea, but that doesn't translate to software very well. You need that person to translate the software, and and they try to hire a developer or co-founder be a developer, and a lot of times you're not hiring the right developer. And I think you were mentioning you experienced that, right? So tell us about your experience in hiring your co-founder or the guy who was taking over the code.
Yeah, he's an older guy. My co-founder was an older guy. Had a web development company. Mainly started in the 2000s. One of the first customers. He was a great guy. Is a great guy. Um, However, he didn't really code, especially at the time I was developing in React Native. And so when I ended up bringing him on, it was more of like a CTO, but for a mid-sized to large-sized company, right? No longer coding, more doing project management and higher vision type of strategic planning. But at an early stage, what you really need is someone who can code,
Yeah,
right?
that's
If you're going to
that's
be
where
paying them,
yeah,
yeah,
that's devastating too, right? Is we you see that all the time where you had a great guy who would have been amazing at your growth stage, but not so
yeah,
much at the start, right? Because and a
yeah,
lot of founders, because again the lack of experience, they just don't know. They see a guy and they're like, "Oh, you're smart. You know how to code. You're perfect." Right? Whereas, yeah, okay, good, but like you need to understand where they fit in, right?
yep, yeah. And I think what also comes with that is excitement, right? Because I didn't know anything about it, right? This guy was older, had the knowledge, and I was eager and ready to get going on it. But what ended up happening was I was paying him, and then we had to go and hire a developer, so that's like 2x the tech costs.
Right.
And we were doing an onshore development, and that was yeah. Eventually, started doing onshore development as we moved from a website more to a mobile app, and then that raised a lot of costs. But again, wasn't this time I was raising some capital, but we weren't ever like flush with cash.
Right.
It was a rolling raise, so we always had maybe like 30, 50,000 in the bank at a time.
Right. Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because you're trying to figure out what your cash flow looks like. How many devs did you guys have on your team, excluding the main guy?
Um, Two internal
Two
at
internal.
at the height,
And
yeah,
they're
and then
expensive, right? They're not cheap.
yeah, they're not cheap. They are expensive,
Yeah.
And at the time, I also didn't know agile development. I took
Right.
classes on agile development so I could better understand. Because I think one thing is the non-technical founder becomes too dependent upon the technical one to handle
Yes.
everything
Yes.
without knowing any kind of information or structure, right? And so,
Including business knowledge at the same time, right? Because I say, here's the problem. Okay, good luck, solve it for me, right? Or you have a
yeah,
solution, but it's very business oriented. It's not code, software oriented.
yeah, and the logic behind the
Yeah,
steps of how to get there and complete a task within this process that you're trying to automate. And I think that once that, especially first-time founders who are non-technical, they have these ideas and they hand them over to the dev or devs or dev shop, right?
right.
And just say, get it done,
Yeah,
and that's it. And then the developers build it. They're ready to usually alpha test and they release it, which is very, very exciting
right.
for especially for anything really. But as a first time founder, you're ultra excited about it because
Yeah,
you're finally getting it out and you're able to start testing it.
yeah.
But what I've come to learn is that
I know
through my
exactly what
own
you're gonna say.
experiences, yeah, and my experiences and those who other first time founders I know, um, they just release them, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of testing, and it
No.
ends up running into like fires. And
Oh yeah.
that happened with me. So when we launched Vendor, the mobile app, yeah, we were excited and ready to race to get out beta, and I released it to everyone, and it just had
And
mass bugs in it.
you know what's funny is because I fully have empathy onto why founders do that, because guaranteed you were delayed, right? You probably were told
Yeah,
it's going to take 6 months and it's 9 months, so you're already burnt through your testing phase, and you're struggling with cash flow. There's all these things that are happening that you're basically like, I have to release this full-fledged system
yes,
right away because I can't wait 2-3 months beta testing, right?
yep, 100%,
Yeah,
100%. And if you've taken on outside investment, whether it be angel investors or anything, like for me, I was keeping them updated every month. Like
the
there's
pressure.
an added pressure and an added weight, um, which as a first time founder definitely weighs super heavy. You know,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because you're trying to please everybody, right? It's your first
yeah,
time. As a second, like for myself, I'm also a second founder, right? It's not, but I experienced the exact same stuff you experienced on my first rodeo. And I find that fitting to say rodeo since you're wearing a cowboy outfit. but legit, it was one of those tough situations where you're basically getting money from friends and family, right? And you have angel money coming in, but angel money only they're still distant friends. You still know them directly, right?
yeah,
And so there's this pressure. Everyone's invested in you, right? That's what they always say. And if it creeps, I think it's the worst thing you can say to a founder. I know it's a flattery in its own way, but like to me,
yeah,
it's like you just added like 100 times more pressure on me because you're just
yeah,
saying, "Hey, I'm investing in you. You are the guy I'm investing in." It's like, fuck.
yeah. And often you also don't know what happens if it goes south, right?
Exactly.
And then it's like, well, it's just an area of unknown. But the second time around, you're like, oh, okay, this is what happens,
That's
and
right. Yeah,
you're more comfortable with
it's a little more of a playbook in your head.
bingo.
And it's actually funny you say that because literally our Founders Academy, so I built an entire playbook for startups for founders. And
Nice.
literally what you're saying is exactly like, especially I focused heavily on the product side because I would say, and I'd love to hear your opinion, I think most founders actually don't fail at the business side, but they fail at the product side. And it's exactly what you said. They delay the delays to get the product out, the straight launch without testing. But this is all because they didn't do it, proper planning from the start. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a combination of things. I think because I also think that first time founders they don't charge enough up front, or
Yeah.
they don't charge soon enough,
Or they don't even
right?
sell.
So yeah,
They
or
don't
they
even
don't
bother.
sell,
Yeah.
which just leaves straight burn. But I think if you're able to create the experience, because the product is the experience, right? So
That's
like
right.
for me with Vendor, the product was a delivery of your neighbor's produce initially, right?
Yeah.
So the actual product I was selling was this experience that you can purchase from your neighbors and get delivered.
Right.
But you can do something like that analog style manually for super cheap. And that in itself is a product that's going to allow you to really understand the processes, right? That then need to be automated once you get tired of fucking sending a million of the same email out,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
follow up with a
Oh yeah.
receipt or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Cold emails are the worst.
yeah, like it's a pain in the ass, but I think that sometimes a lot of first time founders just jump into the tech without actually the business process laid out,
Right.
right, or really understanding it. And what that could lead to is constant development, because as they're developing and learn and using that platform,
Yeah.
they're better understanding the business and the logic and the processes that are involved that are needed in order for it to become streamlined and actually
Right.
be able to grow.
So, what would be your number one advice for any new founder that's kind of like going, I have this idea. I think it would be a brilliant idea, but I have really no idea where to start or even have an understanding of what being a founder means. Because again, you listen to a lot of these, VCs, for example, today, actually, on LinkedIn, I was listening to someone speaking and they said, what do you look for in a founder, or, as a founder, what should you think about? And the stuff she was saying, I was kind of like, I don't know if I agree with that, because it was like, oh, do you like uncertainty? And I agree with that. I mean, being an entrepreneur and founder, it's always uncertain. But she was kind of talking more financial based, right? And I think most founders, they're not really in that mindset, right? So, what are your thoughts?
I think entrepreneurs are more prone to uncertainty. There's a level of acceptance with it.
Right?
Um, for a first time founder, though, I think that they should focus on actually making money,
Yeah.
and
Cash
that
flow. Cash
alone
flow is
is
king.
going to allow you. Cash flow is king, right?
Yeah.
And cash flow doesn't have to mean some high performance website. So,
Yeah.
like again, it's what can you do for $300-500 if that's all you got, right?
Right.
Excel sheets and Gmail. You can conjure up a business for like literally in Texas like $500,
Yeah.
um,
And there's a
and that's
lot of
sending out
tools. You're
invoices.
right.
Tons
Yeah.
of tons of
Yeah.
tools, and that alone creates the product, right?
Right.
And you can do that for super cheap without having to actually go raise capital. And that within it, in and of itself, is an MVP,
Right.
right? And from there, it's like, okay, then they write out the processes once they've actually figured it out. How do you start removing yourself from that process? So you write them all out. Um, so for first time founders, I would say, yeah, start super small just to validate the idea, right? You can spend probably $500 if you're doing it analog, right? Just manual. Um, and then look out for other tools that you can use to potentially start designing those processes that you want if you're going to try to automate before thinking you need to raise capital just to make it work and just
Agree.
take the money and then start building, and
Agree.
then without actually testing like the market
The
itself,
market. Yeah.
and then you're just burning capital because you're pivoting consistently in the tech, which is
It's kind of the joke, right? With
me
founders,
for
it's
so
like
long.
pivot, pivot, pivot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's because they just don't know if the business model itself yet is legit,
Yeah.
or
No, and
sound.
I agree with you 100%. I think most of our successful clients that have come to us, they came with us with, I've already done it. I've seen some success, and I'm kind of replicating it. How do we make it better? That's really the
Yep.
conversation, rather than the conversation about, oh, I'm not too sure what this is going to look like. Here's what I'm thinking, right? Because what always ends up happening is we always end up going, example, we built this whole system, and they said, okay, there was a survey system essentially. It was a validation and period, but they had 170 questions, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of questions. I don't know too many people that are going to take 170. Guess what? We pivoted
A
it,
ton.
and it's now like 50 questions, right? So you're totally right on that sense. It's start small, start validating. You don't need 200K to start, despite what Silicon Valley tells you.
Yeah, and actually, if you don't do the 200K up front, you bootstrap it for a little bit, build that MVP, get a little bit of traction. When you go to raise capital, you're in a stronger position,
That's right.
right? So
Because
you
now
can
you have a
actually get a
validated
higher
idea.
valuation and more.
Yep.
Bingo, bingo. And if
Yeah.
you can get to cash flow positive, then
Yeah.
you're running. That's a legit company
And
that's
and
making
that's
money. Like
and that's
put
what you're
money on the gas on the fire.
and now that's what you're doing with Lux, right? So tell us about Lux. Give us a scope of what Lux is and what you're doing with Lux, and
Yeah, so Lux Markets is we host private farmers markets for luxury apartment complexes. We're probably the hottest amenity for luxury communities in Austin, Texas, right now. So we essentially take your own farmers market that you would see outside. We focus more on a small scale, intimate market of about 12 vendors and place it inside a luxury community, whether it be on their rooftop or in their club room. The residents get to get off work, come home right around 5:30, grab a couple free cocktails, and then shop from all these local small businesses. So, and the way we pivoted, I pivoted from one company to the other was, I had all my everything into the first company. So when that didn't work out and I pivoted into something else, it was how can I just start doing this and start making capital, right? Start making money. And slowly progressed, was able to become cash flow positive within 4 weeks, and started learning all the business models from there, right? I had made a switch from direct to consumer to B2B, which was a lot nicer, which also tip for first time founders, like go B2B first, fuck DTC, because the cost, I'm just using all these acronyms, direct to go business to businesses instead of direct to consumer, because the cost for customer acquisition for B2B is going to be probably
well,
lower for the return that you're going to get.
and the consumer side, it's tough, right? It's B2C
Marketing.
is very, very hard. It's very marketing heavy. It's less sales. You can't really do sales on it, and it's a lot less control because it goes viral. It goes viral. If it doesn't, you're stuck, right?
You're hemorrhaging cash.
Yeah.
Hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for being here. Really appreciate your time.
no
And,
problem.
thank you for giving advice to anyone that's listening, if anyone's listening. Could have just been a conversation between us, so that's nice. But glad you made it. I would love to maybe in the future have another like a longer form because I feel like you and I can have a really nice long conversation about a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's only been 30 minutes. Yeah, we could just dive deep.
Exactly. So I love that. Again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and hopefully I'll see you in Austin soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the offer to be here. And I do want to say
Of course.
that, working with you guys with Corridor has literally been one of the best experiences in development that I've had so far. Um,
Amazing. Thank you.
probably due to both of our experiences over
Yes.
time.
Yeah. It helps a
But the
lot.
communication is very clear. It's open,
Yeah.
transparent, the whole process. And as long as you, and I think we've been able to do this really well, is express our expectations so
That's
we
right.
kind of know what's in line, and what's to come, which has been really nice.
And it's funny you bring that up.
And we're on time.
Like to me, I've always said to my entire team, it's all about communication. Set the expectation, no surprises. And I think that's the one thing that really agitates people is like startups especially, they don't really know what's going to happen next. So if you just
Mm.
preemptively are constantly communicating with them what's happening next, they're less stressed out, I'd like to say. But yeah, again, it comes back to
100%.
both of our experiences, right? And that's why. So, but we didn't pay you to say that, so thank you. I really appreciate you saying that.
No,
That's
no,
you're
no.
amazing. We love working with you. Everybody on the team is always excited to chat with you. So, thank you for making it easy for us as well.
Hey, no problem, Seth.
All right.
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again soon, either in Austin or
Or in Calgary. Yeah,
in
you got to come here if you want to
Calgary.
ski.
Yeah, I'll try it.
All right. Awesome. Sam, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And then enjoy the video if you do watch it later.
Yeah, I will. Thanks,
All
Seth.
right. All right,
Later,
buddy.
guys.
Okay. Ciao. Bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you all being here. I hope you guys took away some good stuff from that conversation between me and Sam. Sam has been a founder his second time now, so he has had the experiences that most first-time founders go through. So hopefully that was helpful. We're going to be pushing out more of these kind of contents for you guys. That's more tailored towards how to be a successful startup right off the bat. And if you guys have any ideas or topics that you'd like to hear from us, please let us know. Leave a comment down below. Otherwise, we'll see you in next time stream. Till next time, have a good day.